Happy New Year to all our council members, our city staff, our visitors in the audience tonight, and certainly anyone at home who's watching. So, Happy New Year to you and your neighbor. We have no guest speaker tonight. I'm going to ask for public comments. Is there anyone here in the council room that would like to address the council? This will not be a dialogue, but we're willing to, we'd like to hear what you've got to say about anything on the agenda or any way you think that you could help out the city of Wabasha. Come up and introduce yourself and give your address, and we're on our way.
Good evening, everyone. It's Benjamin Evans. My address is actually in Lake City. I am an employee of Wabasha Ambulance Service, and I've come to make a comment in regard to the changes to the structure of the ambulance service, which is on the agenda. I wanted to begin briefly by reading a letter that was sent to all council members and to the mayor from the president of the International Association of Firefighters, Local 2078. It reads the following: The International Association of Firefighters Local 2078 is disappointed to learn the Wabasha City Council is considering action at tonight's meeting to eliminate the full-time ambulance personnel. As you know, these employees filed their intent to organize with the Red Wing Professional Firefighters, IFF Local 2078, on November 22nd, 2017. Following that filing, the city was notified of the order of status quo from the Minnesota Bureau of Mediation Services. The union considers this action an unfair labor practice through direct retaliation from City Administrator Springer towards all full-time employees for their desire to negotiate their working conditions. It has been in contact with the IFF District VP and our labor attorney, and will be considering legal action should the council decide to disregard the order of status quo and eliminate any of the full-time EMT positions. I wanted to also express to all council members, to the mayor, and to all of our citizens that are present tonight that the intent for our full-time members to join the IFF was solely predicated out of our desire to improve the ambulance service, to employ the International Association of Firefighters, their resources, and the immense amount of knowledge and resources that the IFF has at its disposal. I also wanted to express the need to maintain our full-time staff and the part-time staff that is on the agenda to be eliminated based off of our need for personnel. As of right now, out of the 28 days remaining in January, 26 days still remain uncovered for scheduling and for staffing. Of those days, a large majority are double shifts, triple shifts, complete open days where no personnel currently are signed up to work. I believe wholeheartedly that if this motion were to pass this evening, that our citizens would be at risk for not having any coverage whatsoever by the ambulance, and our contract with the state would risk being completely annulled because we are required to remain 24-hour service coverage 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That is all. I just wanted to address the council and our citizens and let you know how we stand at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. Anyone else like to address the council this evening? If not, I'd ask the council members any changes or additions that you'd like to make to this evening's agenda.
We have two bills to add under warrants. This is for David Drown and Associates, who does our TIF reporting. One is for 1,400, 2,500. That's all the remaining TIF districts that we have. That's the total cost for the reporting.
Are they both David Drawn?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep. This is Bubani. The work that Mike Bubani does for us.
Okay, with the addition of two bills to the warrants, any other changes? If not, a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. I'd like to introduce a guest that's at the table this evening that perhaps we haven't seen too often before, but Mike Flaherty, our city attorney, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good seeing you.
You too.
All right, we'll move right on down the agenda and we get to the mayor's presentation. In simple terms, what our citizens' local government is to make their lives better. And we as members of local government, we strive to deliver a better quality of life for our residents. Providing public safety is one of our main responsibilities. We have an effective police, ambulance, and fire department to care for our people and property. Providing safe, clean water uninterrupted year-round is the job of our utility team. We all want clean air, parks, and recreational programs to enhance our lives, and yes, as council members, our job is to do what we can to make better the lives of our citizens. In 2018, I'm going to make an attempt to get our Port Authority, Chamber of Commerce, Main Street Program, and National Eagle Center to collaborate, work together with the objective of each agency to be better understood and to understand. Basically, I believe each of these groups are working for the same goals: to have healthier business environment in Wabasha. I also believe that the groups may be working at the exclusion of the other three, and I call this working in a silo. I've talked to representatives of the three groups and will contact the remaining one this week. I continue to promote continued education and would like to mention the League of Minnesota training for experienced council members in Brooklyn Center on Friday, January 26th and Saturday the 27th. On Wednesday, January 31st, the Southeast Minnesota League of Municipalities will be meeting in Stewartville. Their agenda will include leadership training and a study of economic development in all of southeastern Minnesota. So we have another economic development group. Finally, 2018 is election year. Now, 3 council members, 1 from each ward, and the mayor position is up for re-election. Filing dates begin the end of May, but it's not too early to think about running for an open position, and I hope that many of our citizens will consider serving. John, your report?
Port Authority met Tuesday, December 19th. Several items on the agenda. First, we had an application for Jesse Raymer for a gap loan. He wants to purchase the
Russ's Auto Body.
Russ's Auto over off of on Gambia there. And part of what the Port Authority does is it looks at these different businesses, and if we can provide some assistance in getting new businesses or Jesse into an existing business, that's one of our charges. And so after review of the property sale business and his business plan, we did grant him a loan for $40,000. So what happens is that we've got a young man that's going to come into town and keep his family in town and going to continue operating a business in town. So that's a good thing. We're excited about that. I don't know when that's going to finish up or when that's going to.
February 1st is the closing date.
Very good. And that was all contingent on appropriate appraisals and everything else. And so that's all happening, I'm assuming, at this point. CEDA, who we've engaged in the past, CEDA is a Community and Economic Development Associates. They're based in southeast Minnesota. They do economic development work for a number of communities in the area, a number of groups in the area. And we asked them to help us take a look at the 2nd Street buildings. Our representative, Mr. Gassner, was here, and he gave us a nice presentation on it, kind of boiling it down to what is it really worth and what are the real options for those buildings or for that property. And so I think what we initially decided is take what we heard into consideration, but also ask the chamber, who is our number one group of interest at this point, if there may be an interest in doing something with the property on a long-term basis. So more to follow on that. An update on the port terminal. Chad, do you want to talk a little bit about that, or?
I can mention the grant, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I was wondering if you wanted to do that. Or
I'll do that now, yeah.
Yeah.
So we applied for a Port Development's Assistance Grant to help assist in the sand, trucking of the sand back and forth or off the river. It was about a $500,000 grant. actually 600,000, and we received 421,000 of that grant to help in the construction of that port. So that's what I've been telling people is that's like step minus 10 in this whole thing. We still got a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross with the Corps to make this preferred alternative the new plan for the dredge material management plan. So there'll be a lot of work between now and June. If you guys saw the press release from the Corps this last week on the new time frame of looking at June for the new plan. So and that work starts on Monday. Craig, if he's available, he'll be attending a meeting with me up in the cities with the Corps and with our legal team and engineering team to keep that moving.
So, hopefully optimistic.
Yes, sir.
And I think that was about it. For the report.
John, I heard, or I've talked to a couple people about the Second Street properties, and they were pretty impressed and pretty happy with the presentation by CETA.
Yep.
All right. What's the next step there?
Don't know yet.
Okay.
More to follow.
Okay. Steve?
The Utilities Commission did not meet. We're postponed a week.
Okay. Craig?
The planning committee met on the second Tuesday of December, and we were still in the process of reviewing and updating and changing the zoning ordinance. And so you have, that's been divided into 3 phases, and so you have phase 1 before you tonight for the second reading, and we'll be forwarding phase 2 soon. And our next meeting will be to continue that process in 1 week from tonight at 6 o'clock.
Okay. Public hearing?
No public hearings set as of now. That could change sometime this week, but so far, we're just gonna have a regular meeting at 6 o'clock.
Okay. Any questions for Craig? Well, I see Tony's not here to talk about streets, so Joe, would you take that?
The streets did not meet.
Got an easy one, Joe. Streets did not meet. Or Parks and Rec. Gary, anything on Parks and Rec?
We're taking the winter months to look at each park and date what we have written in as far as what the plans were and what's been accomplished. So that's what we're working on.
Very good. Dean, anything to share with us tonight?
Nope.
Nothing? Jeff?
Nothing.
Well, let me ask you, what are your plans as a council member for 2018?
My plans?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I would like to discuss a bit about how committees and commissions fill their vacancies and things like that.
All right. Well, don't be shy. Brian, anything?
No committees.
He's on the utilities, but we didn't meet.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any other questions or comments for, on our commissions or committees?
We have the presentation for that CETA available for us that you said at the Port.
I don't know why not, huh? We put it on,
I'd like to see it.
I'll get it to you. Yep.
All right, City Administrator, Mr. Chad.
One important thing right off the bat is it's been awfully cold lately, and we don't have a lot of snow cover. So we have been monitoring the frost levels, and they have been jumping pretty significantly downward, of course. So if everyone could, if you're going on vacation or something, have someone look after your house, check the water. If you have a thermometer, get a good digital thermometer that goes down past freezing. But if your water gets to 38 or so, give us a call. We haven't fully authorized running yet, but if it continues, we may need to look at it. If you don't remember, about, was it 3 years ago now, Steve?
something like
We
that.
authorized people to run a pencil stream water through there, because we had freeze-ups all over. And it was a year similar to this with little snowfall and very cold. So if you could do that, and if you need to get a hold of us, either call City Hall or you can send any one of us a note and we'll pass it on. So that's a big thing. The other big thing I was going to talk about, which I covered, which was the core thing. Otherwise, we are finalizing the performance reviews from 2017. No big issues there. Things have been fine. So other than that, getting back into it after the holidays.
All right. Any questions for Chad? All right, let's move on then to item number 8, which is the consent agenda, which includes appointments and annual designations, which are in your packet, a resolution supporting the maintenance of local license bureaus, the first read of the land use plan agreement, amendment, approve the minutes and approve the warrants.
With the addition of those two bills.
So I have a question about the warrants.
Okay, then we have to pull it. It says right on top, if we want to discuss, we'll pull it.
Okay, it's a simple question, but you go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever the process is.
Okay, so that is number 5. Okay, motion to approve consent agenda with the exception of item number 5.
I'll move.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Unanimously. Okay, Linda. There is no public hearing scheduled for this evening.
We have to finish the warrants, Mayor.
Do the warrants quick.
Pardon me?
We would typically add that to 10-5.
I think, yeah, that gets dropped down to general business number 5. But thank you, Patty. Okay, first item of business under general business is to elect a 2018 council president. At this time, open for nominations. No nominations, I'll nominate Craig Falcom.
I'll second that nomination.
Other nominations? Other nominations? If not, we'll close nominations, and Craig Falcom would be getting a unanimous vote for council president for 2018.
You got to do the vote.
Pardon me?
You got to do the vote. There was a first.
Motion's made, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now it's unanimous, Craig.
Thank you.
He was holding his breath over here.
Steve, that was only the 8th time I did that. You'd think that it'd be a while that I'd been able to understand how that works.
First sign of Alzheimer's.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Congratulations, Craig.
Thanks.
Item number 2 under general business is the second reading of Phase 1 of the ordinance edits. Chad, do you want to? They're all listed. They're all in red.
Yep, it's edited. It's been a good, God, I don't know, Craig, 3-4 months you guys have been working on that?
Oh, I think even longer. yeah.
Longer than that. The planning commission has whittled down and this is just phase 1, that put things in tabular format, cleaned up some of the other things from 2007, I believe, is when it was originally put out. So,
Maybe
Yeah.
or 5, one or the other.
so
I think 7.
7.
we went through the changes last time. Craig, if you want to elaborate on any of them.
No, we've had a subcommittee working on them. They've been doing a fabulous job. And just plowing through this stuff, it's a lot of boilerplate. And what they're trying to do is make it a little more readable for the general public and all city council people, that you can look at that and be able to extract the information you need. So they're condensing and reorganizing it.
I haven't been a part of the last revision. I think this revision is really going very well. Great.
Good.
Craig, how many hours total do you think you've spent on that project up to date? If you include all the members?
I really don't know. I'm not on that subcommittee, so I don't know exactly what the length of their meetings is. I would guess that our Christy Clark, our planner, has probably been doing the bulk of the work. But I know that Tim Walrick is on that, as well as Scott Durand, and that they've been contributing with that. So it's really been a monumental effort. And the way they could really get a handle on it was to divide it into 3 phases. And so they kind of plucked the middle of it out of it, because the middle has a lot of the bulk of the material is right stuck in the middle. So they tackled that first, and they want to get that done and legalized, adopted by the council, so they can go forward and see how it works while they're working on the other 2 phases. They can see if there's anything they missed or something that needs to be fine-tuned. So it's kind of a working model.
I would guess we have 60 to 80 hours of staff time at least into it.
Of staff time?
Yeah,
Another 60 to 80 of volunteer hours?
I would, maybe
Yeah.
maybe a little
So-
bit less, but
Not something that was done with a snap of a finger. Okay, a motion then?
Second.
Discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. We are moving on to fire department bids for overhead door. Do you really need that big a door? Those are big doors.
want to get the trucks out. Darren, you can come up and I'll kind of start this.
You wanna
The doors that are down there were the original doors?
Original doors,
1972. So
And,
not only are they not working the best, they're awful leaky.
yeah, they're leaky there. We got about a 1/2-inch gap in there between the door and the building, but they've been backed into a couple times, of course, over the years. So now we don't have any safety things on there whatsoever. There's nothing on the bottom, no infrared stuff. So I think it's time to update them doors. Definitely, if you drive by, it's kind of you can tell where they've been, hit a few times and stuff. So I guess I'm here to ask for permission to go ahead and order all 3 doors, replace them with basically what they have in there now. Be a couple more windows in the center. Instead of 2 windows in each door, there'll be 4 windows in each door, just to let a little more light in there. But yeah, that's why I'm here.
So I got a question.
Craig.
The one bid says 3-inch doors and the other one says 2-inch, if I'm reading it right.
Yeah, the one bid there was he bid 2-inch, and then I think he realized that it was 3-inch after he got back, and he came down from Mirage and looked at them, and then he come back and he called me up. He's like, "Are them a 2 or 3-inch?" And I said, "Well, I think they're 2-inch, but the price would go up on that for a 3-inch door, but
On the Rochester
yeah.
overhead door.
So then it would be over, and so
And Hawkins is going to provide the 3-inch door.
yes, yeah.
So I got a question. I saw this was, that it was gonna come out of the fire department.
Equipment.
Equipment
Why would it
placement.
be why would it go there and not under,
We've debated that question ourselves as well.
to me, equipment, we need that money for other stuff.
Right, and we were thinking, when that other stuff comes, we can say we've used
Okay.
fire equipment funds for these things, or we could just let that amount,
Build in there.
it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a
It's up to you guys.
give or take, and right now it's the money's
Well,
there.
it's
It's
been thought about at least, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions for me?
Doesn't look like it. Thank you,
Thank you.
Darren.
I'll make a motion to make this purchase with Hawkins overhead door.
I'll second.
Okay, motion to approve the low bid of $10,290 first and second. Questions or further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, unanimously. Item number 4, ambulance department restructuring. Now, there's quite a summary in our packet. And rather than read it all and go over it, I'm going to just go back to Mr. Chad and see if he'd summarize it for us.
Okay, I'll do the best here, Mayor. So going back to September, when John, Mr. Fox resigned from the position, we immediately formed a subgroup to start discussing, where we were going to go with the ambulance service. And the members of that group are myself, Tim Walrick, who is the volunteer assistant director of the ambulance, EMT and council member John Friedmeier, ambulance commission members Brad Timish and Monica Walters, fire chief De'Aaron Shealy, police chief Joe Stark, and we did have some attendance from Kurt Henn from St. Elizabeth's Hospital as well. Back in May of 2016, May of 2017, you originally approved the hiring of the full-time and part-time positions. And a lot of that was supposed to cover the transfers and call and some other things that we had talked about at the time. Really looking back at it, we feel that this new structure puts us in a better situation to do that. Since we have announced that Mr. Gene Jensen, I will take a step back. For those of you that don't know Gene Jensen, Gene, could you come forward? Gene is the new ambulance director effective January 8th. So for those of you that don't know Gene, this is Gene. Gene, do you want to say a few words?
Really, I guess put on this kind of put on the spot, but no. As far as I just want to say thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to serve this community in this position, and I see a lot of good things in the ambulance, and getting things back on track to where we need them to be for the city, for the citizens of this community. So,
Gene, how about a little bit where you live, with your activities in Wabasha, and a lot of people that maybe don't know you well.
Okay, I live on the west side on Campbell, 3rd Ward. So a lot of activities in town. I'm also a volunteer firefighter. I work with Darren quite a bit. And then, like Chad mentioned, January 8th, I've worked for a company, the communications company here in town for the past 7 years, almost 8 years. So managing that. And then top of that, I like to help out with the baseball program. I'm one of the coaches for the baseball program, and then also the youth hockey here in town too in the wintertime. One of the coaches for the youth hockey team. So,
Any questions for Gene?
I think it's a great idea to have a volunteer fireman as our ambulance director. I mean, he's a kind of a dual-purpose guy, so to speak. Not only that, but it's someone who's lived here for 8 years and knows where he's going, which there's been some issues. And so I think it's a good idea.
Thanks, Gene.
thank you.
So continuing on, our group met starting in September, and we met 4 times. Culminated, staffing has been a discussion going all the way back to September. And I'll let our attorney speak in a minute on some of that stuff. But at the end of the day, we've had a good response of previous EMTs that have been interested in coming back since the announcement of Gene. I think we're up to 3 right now. There's going to be a first responder course being held that I think has 15 people in it. We're looking at different staffing mixtures as far as the volunteer side of, if we have a call in town and we have 2 EMTs on, can we send an EMT and a first responder? Or if we have a call out of town, I'm saying, transfer from our hospital, that we can throw a first responder and an EMT and keep 1 EMT back in-house for the second rig. So those are all things that Gene will be working with me and Chief Stark and Chief Shealy and members of the Ambulance Commission to get that thing up and running and going forward. So at the end of the day, what we looked at is could we entice the volunteers a little bit more? And we took a chunk of the money that was used for the full and part-time staff, and we put it towards the volunteers. You'll see we increased I handed out the new form. I had a calculation error, and the total for the 18 status quo doesn't change at $261,580. However, the total for the new model that we're proposing is actually only $233,000, so it's actually about a $30,000 savings at this point. So what we're proposing is taking the call pay from when a first responder is sitting at home on call waiting for the pager to go off, from, I believe it's $2.75 to $4 an hour. And then for an EMT, it was $2.75 as well, up to $6 an hour. We've done a little discussion with some people from out of town that said at the $6 an hour rate, it could make sense to come into town and pick up shifts. So that helps. We've also increased the pay rate when a call is paged out to when it is satisfied. It was $11 an hour for both previously. We've left the $11 an hour for first responders, but we increased it for EMTs from $11 an hour to $15 an hour. So then if you walk through some of the other numbers, we've got the director, we've got what we're proposing is a new position, assistant director, full-time EMT. That's at 36 hours a week, so 3 12-hour shifts.
Just a quick look at that. Chad, the salary is at 48 and the COLA is at 49.
No, look at the COLA plus step. Those were numbers from the previous numbers. That was an original request, but the final number is 28,922.
Okay.
Yep. That's for that's their 2018 salary that we're proposing at 36 hours a week. We still have a stipend for the training officer in there. But what it boils down to is we feel that the volunteer model, we've got a new director that has new ideas. This subgroup had a lot of ideas, and we're willing to move forward with that structure to go forward into the future.
So under the old one, looked like there was 3 full-time and 2 part-time.
Yes, sir.
And then under the new one, is there 2 full-time?
It's 2 full-time. The director position has never been at issue here.
Right.
Craig, it's just the 2 full-time and 2 part-times.
Okay.
So,
And
yep.
What
So
happened
now-
to the 2 part-time EMTs? Are those still in the
No,
2018?
they're not in the,
They're not in there?
in the model going forward.
So we basically have 2 people in the ambulance full-time
Yes, sir.
and no part-time, except for the people that are the volunteers that are on
Volunteers,
call.
yeah.
And so when they're on, just so I understand this thing a little bit, so they're on call, when they're on call sitting at home waiting see if there's a call, they get $6 an hour.
Depending upon qualifications, yeah.
And then when they do get called, then it's either $15 or $11.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
And any training that they do is at
Training.
that increased amount.
okay. And how many hours a week does the director put in?
Well, he puts in to get the job done, but
It's an exempt position.
it's an exempt position. He's
capital
required, he's mandatory for 32 hours a week call. Anything up to 40 will be included in his salary, and then for every call hour after that, he reverts back to the volunteer pay. That's after 40 hours. And this will allow the flexibility of when Gene's out of town, him and Amanda, who we're requesting to be promoted into that position, they will manage, who's gonna be the person to call, because inevitably, some calls need some additional help and they need some additional people, so. Someone needs to oversee the schedule. If somebody gets hurt or somebody becomes unavailable, that assistant director or the director will need to step up and manage that as it happens, so. And I tell you,
Are we gonna have to redo this every year?
Craig, and that's a great question. Rural ambulance service is a difficult model right now. There's a lot of things that ain't working. We took a shot. It didn't work out the way we were planning. This, I think, is a more vetted shot that we're trying.
It's novel, isn't it?
It's new.
Yeah.
It's new. I don't know of anybody that increasing a volunteer pay to that extent that we're doing. Will it be the last one? I won't say it is.
Well, when we have the salary plugged in with the numbers, should we just say grade and step instead? Would that make more sense? Otherwise, next year when COLA comes around next year, well, they're gonna have to redo.
Well, this is a grade and step. We picked the grade and step for these.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe we should just specify the grade.
I should do that, yeah. Well, I mean, it translates to it, and I can let you know what that is.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's how we'll do it. But I've been privy to some calls, not here, but local. I think there was one yesterday that they had to roll a truck single from a different community close to here. I won't say who it was, but they rolled a truck single because somebody didn't show up. So we're doing everything we can. I think we got a lot of committed.
They rolled a
People
truck
there.
single, so I'm trying to translate that. That means one guy went out in the ambulance?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't even know if that's legal. It's not, but they probably did it. Which, you gotta make a choice when someone's on the other end of the line, right?
Yep.
So. I know our police have been, police are gonna actually sit in on some of the first responder stuff too. Although we insist that their primary responsibility at a scene is safety. Safety first. They might be the first one there. I think we had a save just this week, or last week. Officer Metcalf. Week or two ago. So. Mr. Flaherty, do you want to make a couple comments? Yeah, we've been working, in light of some of the discussion earlier. We have engaged our legal staff immediately after we were served with the unionization and talked about what we had done up to that and got their opinion on where we are going forward. And Mr. Flaherty, do you want to kind of
Sure.
reinstate?
So Brandon's our labor attorney who had been working with Chad and had spoken with the mayor once too, I believe. And they've been working together for a while now on this. And, you know, most of what Chad is talking about is a policy decision. You know, is this the way you want your ambulance service to run? And that's not necessarily a legal consideration. That's more of a policy. If you, the council, believe that that's the best thing for the city or want to do that or take that action. The wrinkle in that is the attempt to unionize some of the employees. And when they filed the petition with the BMS to unionize, then you have the question of can you actually take this action at this point while that is pending? So that, if you don't know, I don't know how familiar the council is with the issue, but so there had been a petition to unionize that hasn't been decided yet. That's sort of in limbo right now. And so the question is, can you move forward? Brandon looked at this. I spoke with him today. He looked at kind of the sort of has been describing here and other things too. I won't go into every detail, but he had looked at it and it was his opinion that if the council decided to move forward, that was fine. And, you know, the legal action could be taken against the city if you do this. That, you know, I can't get around that fact. And I think the public comment tonight sort of, you know, told you that. But it was Brandon's, you know, viewpoint based on reviewing the facts and circumstances surrounding what had happened, that there was what's called a good business case here. The city has a good business case for doing, if they choose to do this, to move forward in this direction. Basically, you have good public policy reason to proceed, and you're not acting in a retaliatory manner, essentially. And so that was his take on it. I don't want to get, now that we have a letter that was delivered, I think not just tonight, see that till I got here tonight. We shouldn't really discuss it any further in too much detail. I can answer questions if you have factual questions about the process, if you have those.
Is anybody losing their job? Are we firing anybody or laying
Check-in.
anybody off?
Yes, there will be 2 people currently, 1 full-time and 1 part-time. That would be
Laid off?
laid off, yes. And we would promote Amanda, the other full-time, to the assistant director position.
So if anybody else has questions, I can answer them or try to answer them.
Why don't we see if we've got any interest in this first of all? So I'll ask for a motion and a second. If there is a motion and a second, then we can go into discussion before we vote. So could I get a motion that the 2 full-time EMT positions and 2 part-time EMT positions approved in May of 17 by the council will be eliminated and employees laid effective 1/26/18, and authorize the city administrator to provide the appropriate notices.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Now discussion, questions?
So full disclosure, I'm obviously on the service. I'm a volunteer EMT, have been now for 17 or 18 years. So this would directly affect me and me financially.
You shouldn't.
So in that sense, I will participate in conversation, but I don't think I should probably vote on this one.
Yeah, I think that's, anytime
Yeah.
you have a direct or indirect financial interest.
Yeah, and I will have a
that's-
direct it
Yeah.
would actually affect me.
The pay is going up as I can see it, so.
So you'll recuse yourself on the phone.
Use myself from the vote, but I certainly will participate.
Dean, haven't heard much from you tonight. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm not anywhere near expert in this area, so I'm gonna go with the recommendation of the group that was put together and go with what they recommend. Because I know nothing about, I know how to be in the gurney of the ambulance, but that's about it.
Yeah. Jeff, thoughts?
I really think that our obligation is to give the best service to the citizens of Wabasha at the best cost. And it seemed like the model, I mean, this first model was, I took it as being sold to me that it was gonna make things much better and they were gonna be making all these extra runs and bringing in all this money, and it doesn't seem like that worked out. So I don't, I do have like a little question on these rates for the, when they have a call. What's the minimum time that they get that? I mean,
Well, it would be, they would be paid that for the time that they're doing it. So typically, it's probably no less than an hour, John, even if there's,
Yeah,
By the
even
time
like
you
a no
get-
transport, it's about an hour. But say we transport, then it could be an hour, hour and a half. If it's a transfer out of the city, it can be 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on where we're going.
and how many actual runs, do we know how many runs were made in 2017?
it's right around the 500 number.
500, so then.
It's
you
kind of
use
been there for a
600
while,
here?
yep. Yeah, I use 600 as an estimate, just to be safe, thinking we'd be able to pick transfers and other runs as well, so.
John, when you say an hour, does that include the time the ambulance leaves the bay to the time they
Back in service, yeah.
back in service, which means cleaning everything
Yeah,
up and
done, ready to go.
refurbishing? Okay.
File the report, everything.
All reporting everything?
Yep.
So over the years, I've been to dozens of conferences, and rural EMS and staffing, recruitment, retention has always been a big topic. And I've spent hour upon hour in these, and I've heard different case studies and case reviews from across the state and across the country. And this is more novel than probably I've heard before. I've seen blended services, or like what we proposed earlier this year as a trial, and or full-time or strictly all volunteer, or if just straight first responder units, which is just a bunch of guys in pickup trucks running to calls. If we're gonna make the volunteer model work, I think that this is probably our best bet. I really do. So, for what it's worth.
John, is there any downside to the model?
Well, there's always a downside. Probably one of it is retention and recruitment of people willing to do this, to do the job, to volunteer for the kind of hours and what's required of them.
But it looks like this might position ourselves
More so.
to be a little more successful in that area?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so maybe the model itself is not going to keep people from volunteering or getting involved.
Right.
Yeah, so any other downside that you,
Oh,
okay, well, I see as an upside, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that it should be a recruiting tool.
it can be, can't it?
Yeah. Accountability is going to be there with the director and the assistant director.
John, I got a question. In the previous model that we had with, from this new one that we're looking at, it seems like every time an ambulance would come to Maple Grove, the ambulance would pull up, and then one or two other ambulance members would, in their personal vehicles, would show up and assist. And then when we went with this previous model, that seemed to have gone away. And it was my understanding that they were told that they could no longer do that. Now with this current model that we're looking at, is that?
I don't know, I can't speak to that, I wasn't in the position to give that kind of direction on that previously.
I'm just wondering if they showed up, are they considered to be on call at that time?
Well, yeah, if they're active and helping, then they'd be considered part of the call. You know?
Right.
And depends on the kind of call that it is. I mean, it really can require some extra hands.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of times maybe those pages or those calls that you're witnessing are calls that are significant enough to where maybe people think that they could use some extra hands, or maybe they've been called. We need lift assist, we need, CPR in progress, we need extra hands, whatever it might be. As to being told to not respond, I can't speak to that. Because if I thought I needed to go, I went.
Yeah.
There was some dialogue around that, Dean, I will.
Well, I just seem to have noticed that, and that was a concern amongst the elderly up in Maple Grove Apartments where I live, is that that seemed to have gone away. And hopefully with this new model, it might come back, I don't know, but it's a little bit reassuring when you have, besides the ambulance crew, you have another one or two individuals there helping with transfer and so forth, so.
Some of that's liability and things like that too. I mean, it's who's liable, who's responsible for if you get in a car wreck and you're going to a call in your personal vehicle and you're not the guy that's scheduled on duty. So what happens? So those are the kinds of things too. I think that there was some concern about, and I think that kind of stuff needs to get vetted out.
Do we ever call out the fire department for assistance?
For lift assist?
We do? Okay. And then I know we have.
Police, yeah.
They're always the first ones there.
They were lift assist for us last night, so.
Right.
John, it was stated earlier that there are many days in January that are unscheduled or uncovered. Is that a problem, first of all?
It's been a problem for years on end. And this, the way the schedule looks right now is not anything probably new than last month or the month before that.
Okay, so this is not a,
It's not a comforting
Anomaly.
feeling by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not new.
okay.
Jeff brought up a point, and I'm still kind of fuzzy on it. So back in April, we were told that there was gonna be something like $1,000 a run, and so if they were gonna get a lot more runs, then it was gonna pay for these positions. And did we not get those, as many that were predicted?
No, we had opportunities, but we were from down. I think we were still less than 50% transfers out of St. Elizabeth's.
Okay. We were forced to turn them down because we didn't have enough people?
Didn't have the backups, yeah.
Well, as Dean says, the first thing we need to do is protect the community as best we can with what we have. That's our job. I'd give the group credit for thinking out of the box a bit. And I know that you did it with the intent of serving the public. You kept that number one. So if there's no further discussion, I'm going to...
Before you call for the vote, can John make a motion even if he's abstaining?
No. Did he make the motion?
Yeah, I did. Just to get it started, sorry.
I didn't
So
catch that.
what do I need to do?
What does he need to do?
Retract the motion?
Yeah, I think if you can call for a new motion and somebody else makes a new motion, that would be fine.
Because John is going to recuse himself, I'm going to call for a new motion on item number 1 under action required for the ambulance department restructuring.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Dean and Craig. We've had discussion. Patty, I'm going to ask for roll on this.
Okay. Woodley,
Yes.
Sula,
Yes.
Moyer,
Yes.
Malcolm,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
Yes. And that passed unanimously. 6
Announce the abstention too.
with one,
With one abstention.
Announce the abstention.
with one abstention. Abstention, Mr. Friedmeier. Okay, continuing on that same item, we will approve the job description for the EMT, the Assistant Director position, and appoint Amanda Murphy to this position, 1/3/18 at Job Class 6 and 4, Step 4.
I'll move.
Second.
Questions, or how was Amanda selected?
She stepped up and played a big role during this transition, filled a lot of call time, has been recommended by the group and by her peers.
Okay.
As one that could fill this spot.
So as city administrator, you've had
Had
interface and,
conversations with her as well.
oh, okay, so you're comfortable?
Yes, sir.
You didn't have to advertise this position?
Nope, we can just appoint this, yep.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's passed unanimously. Did you recuse, John? Not
I don't
on
have
this
to
one.
recuse that one.
Was there a question? Or
No, I just was wondering if John needed not to abstain from the board, but he said he didn't need to.
All right, we'll go back to our agenda, ladies and gentlemen, and we are at donations.
So we're at 5-2,
Yeah, we're at 5-2.
whatever,
You're right, Craig, that a boy.
10-5.
10-5, yeah.
10-5.
So
I had even written it down.
the question I had, so I just go through these and, you see dollar amounts and everything, and the thing that caught my eye was the $400,000 bond payment.
Sir.
Good
So-
question.
I'm just wondering how that came about, what we're at on that. I assume it's something we have to do, I just don't know much about it.
That's the 2013 street project.
Okay.
Every year we levy $356, I believe, as a separate line item in the levy. And that's, you might ask why that's less than the payment. That's because the assessments that are received by law have to be used to make that bond payment. So we've been collecting assessments. I think that fund balance is over 500,000 at this point. So we have 421 in the fund. So we collect the assessments and we kind of predict how those assessments are going to come in year to year. And we did that back in year 2, now thinking that we shouldn't have to change the 356 at all going forward. That should be what it is going forward until the 10-year payment is up. The last payment for that one will be made in 2023. So it's an annual payment to pay the bonds.
And that was the 2016?
2013.
2013
The
project.
big reconstruct with the underground and all
It
that.
was a little over $4 million project, wasn't it?
Sir.
It was 5 million, I think.
Was it up to 5 million,
Or
Steve?
7, I think. It came in a couple
That would've
hundred
been-
under, I think.
That was my only question.
Yep.
Craig, you comfortable on that?
Yeah.
How
I'll say
about
that's
ma-
a third person, so that's good. People are questioning, and it's easy to forget about that.
How about making a motion to approve item number 5 under the warrants?
I'll make a motion to approve that item.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. All right, we are now to donations. Patty, are you in the mood to read donations? No? Okay.
There was a raise in it.
Jeff is.
Thanks. Want me to read the whole thing?
Please.
Whereas the city of Wabasha is generally authorized to accept donations of real and personal property pursuant to Minnesota statute section 465.03 for the benefit of its citizens, and whereas the following persons and entities have offered to contribute the cash amounts or items set forth below to the city for the following: Police Department, Brad Timish, equipment valued at $715 to the Police Department. Library, Heritage Laundromat, $100. Library, Anonymous, $35. Library Area English Handbell Ringers, $333.33. The Library, SVJ Creative Designs, Dave and Shelley Speedling, Concrete Reading Bench. Library, Jeannie Woodley and Vicki Johnson, an artificial Christmas tree, 2 of them. Library in memory of Michael Kropp by Christy Connor, Don and Judy, $500. Ambulance, Heritage Laundromat, $100. Fire Department, Heritage Laundromat, $100. Police Department, Heritage Laundromat, $100. Police Department, Thomas Crans, $25.
Thank you,
Whereas-
Jeff.
Okay, you're welcome.
And thank you to all the donors. Your donations are appreciated. A motion to accept the donations.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Happy New Year, everyone.
Thanks.
Mike, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming up.
Yeah, no problem.
What be that?